farewell. Oh, why did you abandon it? The reason to me tell. Oh, son, I love my native land with energy and pride, till a blight came over all my crops, my sheep and cattle died, my rent and taxes were so high, I could not then redeem, and that's the cruel reason I left old Skibbereen. It's well I do remember the year of '98, when the landlord and his sheriff came to drive us all away. I was hunted through the mountains as a traitor to the Queen, and that's another reason I left old Skibbereen. Your mother, to God rest her soul, fell on the snowy ground. She fainted in her anguish, seeing the desolation round. She ne'er arose, but passed away from life to mortal dream. She found a grave and place of rest in dear old Skibbereen. You were only 2 months old and feeble was your frame. I could not leave you with my friends, for you bore your father's name. I wrapped you in a coat and bore at the dead of night unseen, and we heaved a sigh and bid goodbye to dear old Skibbereen. But Father dear, the day will come when our vengeance we will call, when Irishmen both stout and stern will rally one and all. I will be the man to lead the band beneath the flag of green, and loud and high we'll raise the cry, revenge for Skibbereen. Arigato.
So, you're all very welcome to the Irish Pavilion. So you've heard some singing there, Bushy, and music on the fiddle and on the pipes. So try one together now, all of us. These are 2 very old jigs. These tunes are a few hundred years old, I'd say. The rambling pitchfork and the sporting pitchfork. The pitchfork was a tool used for farming, for doing the hay. Where the pitchfork was rambling to. So there's 2 tunes dedicated to that. other two jigs. So we've had different sort of types of music played so far. We had a slow air, we had a lullaby for children, and the happy music. So there's sort of three forms of music. There's the sad music for that makes sad after somebody passes away or lamenting a lost battle or something like that. And then there's the lullaby for children, and then there's the happy sort of lively music as well. So that is an example of that. And we'll continue now with another nice lively set. It's called it's a set of reels. The first one is the Sligo Maid, The Ships Are Sailing, and the Wild Irishman. So these are tunes that we've put together. So we have hundreds, thousands of tunes that we all know, and before the concert we decide what we'll play, and we put maybe 2 or 3 tunes in one set. So that's what we'll do now. We'll do 3 sets. Maybe with the clapping, it's better to clap after the music finishes, because the acoustics in the room is very hard to hear. So it's better, just more enjoyable after the music finishes, if that's okay. Arigato. the Irish language. So you've heard a song, Machine, traditional, old, a very old song in English, but we have our own language as well, which is much older than English, and we speak it amongst ourselves. So it's so this is a song about the poet sees the vision of a beautiful woman, dark-haired woman, across in the glen, and he describes her beauty. But I don't think the woman is in love with the man. It's a common theme in Irish love songs. So, here we go.
beautiful Matthew and Oisin. As Matthew mentioned, there are tradition of traditional tunes and singing in Ireland is very, very old. And I'm going to continue with two hornpipes now that came back from the United States of America when one of our fiddle players immigrated there. One of our most famous fiddle players, Michael Coleman, immigrated to America. And he was recorded out there playing, and we received these recordings back in Ireland. It was sort of the first time that we heard recorded music, and it really was something very new and something very that really progressed the tradition. So I'm going to play two hornpipes now that Michael Coleman recorded, the Sligo Fancy and Galway.
dance music, which means that people have to start to dance to it, often in houses and things, you know, and then another big part of the singing tradition and this poetic tradition as well. So from that I think comes a lot of slow music as well, and a lot of slow airs have, where our songs and are sung with words as well. That's what I might be played on a flute or a harp. There is often words associated, but the one I'm going to play now is called O'Reilly's Grave, and it comes from the south of Ireland, from a county called Kerry, and I don't think there are words. It's just one very old air that kind of is probably 200 years old that survived. So I'll play it now. Thank you.
This instrument is called the Ireland pipes, and it's a uniquely Irish instrument. It's a form of bagpipes that you have bagpipes in Scotland and France, Spain, these are quite different in that they're much quieter than the Highland pipes and the Scottish bagpipes, much smaller and quieter, and they're played by pumping the air with the bellows. So instead of using your mouth, so you don't blow with your elbow, and the air passes through into the pipes, into the bag here, and then into the 7 different pipes that make the sound. So you've got the chanter, which will play the melody. There are 2 full octaves, from bottom D to high D. And then you've got drums, 3 drums, 1 drum, 2 drums, and a 3. They're an octave apart, tenor, baritone, and bass. And then you've got regulators. There's 3 rows, so you can make a chord, and you can play that with your wrist. So so there's 7 different sounds happening at once. It's a bit like the organ, the wind blowing through reeds. And the reed is made out of cane. It's very like an oboe, the classical music instrument. It's like an oboe reed, a double reed made out of cane. There are very few pipe makers, very few good pipe makers around the world. It's very hard to get a set, maybe a 10-year waiting list to get a good set of pipes. But one of the best pipe makers is from Japan, and he lives in Hokkaido. His name is Makoto. So I'll just read this out into Google Translate. So, Ireland Paipu wa Airurando Doku Toku no Gaki desu sono Rekishi wa 18 seki shoto ni Saka no Borimasu. Majude ni Tori Suketa Fuigo o Tsukate Kuki o Okuriko Minimasu 7 pon no Paipu ga Ari Subete ni Ashi de Dekita Rido ga Suite ite on o Dashimasu Puran Kusuti Chifutenzu Boshi Bando Nado no Gurufu ni Yote Fukyu Shimashita Seisaku wa Sha wa Hijo ni Sugunai Desuga Saiko no Seisaku Sha no Hitori wa Nihon no Umi Kodo ni Sumu Makoto to Yui Iko Desu. It's probably easier to understand my English, but for those, hopefully you're able to understand a little bit my terrible Japanese. I apologize for. So I'll demonstrate a little. I'll play a tune. This tune is for John Shee, one of the staff here. He's a great harp player himself, and he's from Japan, and he spent years in Dublin. And hey, John Shee. So I'm going to play him one of his favourite tunes. It's called The Morning Thrush, and it's a song that was written by Seamus Ennis's father. Seamus Ennis was one of the master pipers, and his father wrote this tune. Listening to the bird, the thrush, in the morning.
wheat and kernel sizer. So yeah. Yeah.
It's called Lord Mayo. It's an old march. Thanks to Hiroshi, who's done a fantastic job on the sound as usual, and all the pavilion staff who are amazing, and and for you for coming. So make sure to come back. If you're back at the expo, come here. It's great. And during the day there is an installation, an artistic installation with us musicians, but with a visual screen and with music. It's a combination of live and recorded music with the film. So that happens during the day. So I'd love to see you again. Thanks a million, and this is Lord Mayo.